This episode of Westlake Live is brought to you by the Normandy. Come home to the Normandy. SLA Video Productions presents live and on tape from the beautiful Westlake Community Services Center in Westlake, Ohio. It's Westlake Live!
Stephen Pastor's life was too busy to fit in all his curiosities and interests, so when he retired, he went full on. He's a member of multiple senior centers and participates in theater, dance, and even chair volleyball. He's a longtime Redcoat volunteer, member of the Cavs Wine and Goldies, and North Coast Men's Chorus. He's a big personality and such a positive spirit. Stephen is an amazing example of leading a life to the fullest after retirement. Please give a warm welcome to Addie and Stephen.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today. I think you will find Stephen very interesting. First question, since she mentioned what he's been doing since retirement, when did you actually retire? And I actually have heard the story of what you did the very day after you retired. So share that with us.
Okay, so I retired on September 28th, 2018. And on October 1st, 2018, I visited the Rocky River Senior Center. And there's a common notion that when people retire, they don't know what to do with their time. So I went ahead and I registered at that organization, and I got a key card, and then they gave me the Quill, which is their newsletter, and showed me the monthly activities. And I was totally amazed as all the options that were open to me. And I decided, well, let's see, I like to dance. So they had line dancing, they had tap dancing, they had clogging, which I've never done before. So I thought, look into that. They had areas that covered exercise. So I could do Tai Chi, I could do chair volleyball, chair yoga. And they had free movies. They had a cafe that was open. They had things called Lunch and Learn, which meant I got to learn something, and I got a free meal. And free is always important when you're a senior. And I thought, well, gosh, now I've got to figure out what to do. So my typical schedule was on Mondays and Wednesdays, I would do line dancing in the morning. Then I would play chair volleyball. I would rough for chair volleyball on Monday afternoons. And then I would play chair volleyball on Thursday afternoons. Then I would be able to have a hot lunch on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And then I could also go to a variety of movies. I could see 3 movies a week. And it's like, well, gosh, now I don't know. Now my house has gone to pot, basically, because all I'm doing is going out there and enjoying myself. So and it's nice to know that a person doesn't have to stay at home and just be a vegetable and watch television. There's so many options out there, and majority of them are free. And somebody else has figured out what you can do. So just check things out and do what you enjoy doing.
And I understand that you have since then registered with other senior centers on the west side besides Rocky River, including this one.
Yeah, there are 4 senior centers within a 20-minute radius of my house. So that gives me a ton of options. So I'm putting more miles on my car since I retired because I'm just doing everything and going everywhere and doing it. So I can't say enough about it, I guess.
That's great. That's good to hear. And I think you're very inspirational and motivational to people who may not have considered doing this. So we're going to progress with our discussion about your involvement in performing groups. But before we zero in on the ones you're involved with, when did you begin having an interest in the performing arts? I know during your work life you were not able to really pursue those interests, but was it when you were in high school or even as a younger person? Did anybody influence or inspire you to have an interest? Or tell us more about that.
Okay, so in terms of performing arts, according to my mom, it started in kindergarten when I was given the role of Jack B. Nimble. I don't remember that. But then in high school, I was in two of the senior plays, senior musicals. So for my freshman year, I was in Music Man, and they had me as I came at the very end. I had no lines. I had to play a clarinet very badly. Then when I was a senior, I auditioned, and I got the only non-singing principal role in Kiss Me Kate.
Okay.
So then I had two speaking roles. So I doubled my presence on stage in those 3 years. So I think that's probably a good advancement, considering that. And then when I went to college, I majored in theater. So I had a bunch of experience on the theater, both acting as well as in production side. And then when I had time for it again, it was once I retired, and I was able to join senior players and perform for them. So
That's great. So do you play an instrument? Because I don't.
I played the clarinet.
You do play
And
the
I played the clarinet well. I just played it badly for that role because that's what I was told to do.
Okay, so with your interest in the arts, being theater, music, film, I trust, so do you have a preference for any particular one, or do you like them all equally?
I sort of like them all equally because I got most of my training in terms of theater, of course, in college. And as for movies, I also learned more about movies because I saw a lot of the classic films and learned about various filming techniques, like framing, the importance of framing, a good plot, how movie music can really inspire and complement a story. And so I knew both the technical aspects, and I've always enjoyed going to the movies. I've always been following the Oscars ever
yes.
since college. So it's kind of it's all those things put together.
Okay, okay, a blend of all of them. Okay, so let's zero in on some of the high-profile groups that you're in, one of which is the North Coast Men's Chorus. And I'm going to do a little plug right now because I have seen about half a dozen of their performances, and I cannot recommend them enough. They're very entertaining, and the talent in this group is really astonishing. They're going to be playing this weekend. Just a little plug for them. So tell us about the North Coast Men's Chorus.
Okay, so I joined the North Coast Men's Chorus in 2004. And what I didn't know at the time was they had a full-time choreographer. So every performance, there would be 2 or 3 dances that you could audition for. So over time, I auditioned, and I was chosen for 1 or 2 dances. So I've been in the chorus 16 years. We do 3 performances a season. So that's 48 performances. So I've been between 48 and 62 dances in that time frame. So that's basically my training. At age 62, I learned to tap dance, which was always an interest of mine. And I did 7 tap numbers with them.
Wow.
In my experience. So again, it's nice having that training. And I got musical training too. I was never in any of the choruses in high school or college. But now I feel like I can kind of hold my own when I'm asked to sing.
Very good.
Which is not often.
Okay, okay. And it's interesting because this group performs in major venues throughout Cleveland. I've seen them at the Maltz. I've seen them downtown, and then sometimes they'll just do a local theater. So talking about more localized involvement, you mentioned earlier the players at the Rocky River Senior Center, which I have seen your productions there as well, which are very charming. They're lots of fun. So give us a little more about that being more like a senior community theater or plays, little plays that you guys...
Okay, all right. So I've been in 3 plays with them, 2 of the musicals, 1 a straight play. And it's very low-key because what you do is they'll announce that they're producing a play. You'll have a table reading, which is basically running through the script. The director will assign certain roles. You'll read for those roles. And then at the end of the process, there'll be a casting list, and they'll tell you which people are playing in which roles. And then you just start rehearsing. Rehearsing is usually 2 months, and you just kind of start slowly, and you build everything, and then you run through the show. You have your tech rehearsals, and then you perform. So it takes a certain amount of commitment, especially if you've got speaking roles. But in any event, it's very fulfilling, and if you like to show off, then yeah, it's a perfect,
This is the place
perfect
for
venue
you.
for that.
Okay, well, kind of going down a different path. For 3 years, you have been a member of the Wine and Goldies. For those who may not know who that group is, they are the senior dance team for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So that's quite a different venue and a different style of performing. So let us know a little more about that.
Okay, so that was a lot different than any of the dance training that I've had. The major portion is the amount of time you have to learn a routine. A routine, so if I'm in a play or if I'm doing something with the chorus, we usually have 2 months to do to learn a dance. Well, in this case, we only had half that time and sometimes even less than that. So you really had to concentrate and you only perform for an hour or rehearse for an hour a week. So it was very concentrated. The music was totally different. It was usually a mashup of 2 or 3 different songs. So then you'd have these abrupt transitions that you had to be concerned about because with every transition comes a whole different routine. So you're kind of piecing these routines together. And over time, you kind of build as you get through it, you kind of learn the routine. So once you learn the routine, you can go a lot faster and you become more efficient in what you're doing.
And is it kind of tricky for you if you're not familiar with this contemporary type of music that is often used in those
Well,
performances?
most of the music I not recognize.
Yeah.
And we were doing a lot of hip hop moves. So there's a kind of incongruity seeing seniors doing various kinds of hip hop motions. And it worked because we could do it well. And that's the best part. And we got great audience response. Over time, we became favorites of quite a few of the fans that would come to see us. And we would perform only once every, we had like 6 performances within a year. So it's usually once a month. And sometimes we got a special deal. We once did New Year's Eve. So that was exciting. And then when we had the All-Star game last year, or actually this year, we got to perform twice, once in a pregame and once in an actual game. So they gave us a lot of national coverage. And that was very exciting to, be a part of that as well.
Great. Okay, well, that's a lot you're involved with already, which shows that you're really physically fit and mentally because you're having to memorize lines, memorize lines for the plays, or like you said, learn new dance steps that you might not be familiar with, and there's a focus required for that. So last year, you did something entirely different. You were a background extra / dancer for a feature film that was filming here in Northeast Ohio. Was that the first time you've ever been on a movie? Like in that
Yes.
type of situation? Okay.
Yes. I got, so the person that was in charge of the entertainment groups of the Cleveland Cavaliers got an email saying from a casting agent that they're filming a movie in Cleveland and that they were looking for what they call dancers movers. So a dancer is someone with professional credits and has actually performed in various venues as a dancer. Movers were people that had some musicality, but were just, if you want to call it, just like regular people. So I was initially hired as a mover, and with films, it's a moving target because there's a lot of different pieces and parts that have to be coordinated. And if one person doesn't want something, then another person could override it, and then things kept changing. I was initially in 4 scenes, then I was in 3 scenes, and then midway through the process, I was advanced from background, which is what they call an extra, to a mover / dancer. So when I did that, they took another scene away, so now I was only in 2 scenes. But the scene as a mover was very exciting because we had to learn a dance routine, and then we filmed it, I think, close to 20 times. So filming is a lot of waiting around, and it's a lot of repetition. The finished product looks great, and to this day, I don't know if I'm even going to appear on screen. They've got the film in the can, as they say, so whether I will appear or end up on the cutting room floor is unbeknownst to me. We'll all know it once they show it and once they stream it, which at this time, no date's been announced. So.
Okay, and was this something that was almost like a dream come true for you to be in a movie, or do you just consider this another feather in your cap with everything you're doing?
Well, I decided that I added it to my bucket list so I could check it off.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a nice experience. I have to admit that, especially when I moved to be a dancer mover, because I got a bump in pay. I got a bump in where I had my own little cubicle. When we were rehearsing, someone took my order for lunch and it was waiting for me. So
Wow.
hey, I've never been treated like that.
Okay.
So
Very
why not
good.
enjoy it?
Very good. Now, getting back to the Cavs, are you a sports fan by nature, or are you just sort of adapting to that world because of the Wine and Goldies, or have you followed them before you ever got involved with this?
Well, I'm kind of a finalist sports fan. If they're in the finals, I follow them. I shouldn't admit that, but that's
Okay,
basically
no,
what it is.
that's-
But I listen to the scores and everything, so I know when they're doing well, etc. But I'm not really a heavy sports fan.
Okay.
No.
Okay. And with all these artistic pursuits that you have, do you have a favorite? Do you like theater over film, over dancing, or, what do you prefer, or music, or do you have a preference for any of them? Or are you pretty much equally dedicated to all
I'm
of them?
equally dedicated, but I would have to say that given the show's choices, I would probably say dance is
Is what you like the
my
most?
principle. Yeah, I really enjoy doing that and performing for others. So.
Okay, well, you know what? Since you mentioned, do you want to talk about what we have going on back here as far as your props? Because
Oh.
you mentioned the Wine and Goldie, so a lot of this is related to your.
Sure. Okay. So.
Yeah, just so people know why this is here.
Okay, so this was my performing outfit. We had t-shirts in 3 different colors, and we had this lovely jacket we got to wear when we performed. And then because we performed for the All-Star Weekend, we got tracksuits. Okay, so we did a Christmas number, and so this is my outfit for that. And since we did a lot of hip hop, I can't see any of you out there, so.
Okay. And then also you have Wine and Goldies were featured on the front cover of Northeast Ohio Boomer magazine, and that's.
Yes, and I have 5 extra copies, and maybe once one of their own signed by me.
That's actually not Stephen on the cover, though. It's another team member. Okay, well,
Not in
thank
there
you.
somewhere.
Since we were on the Wine and
Oh,
Goldies.
one other thing.
Oh,
now,
so
these are my
sorry.
lucky shorts. I wore these to 3 auditions, and I got in every year. So I wanted to share that with you as well.
Okay, very good. Excellent. Okay, moving on to another thing that you do is you're a volunteer for 2 major things that are Cleveland related. So tell us about your volunteering activities.
Okay, so I've been a Redcoat since 1984, and that makes it, I think, 38 years if my math is correct. So I'm one of the last people standing, I guess. If you ever take the walk from the parking garage into the theaters, they have a number of pictures that show a centennial of Playhouse Square. And in 1984, I was there for the opening, and my picture is there. I'm in a top hat. So, and I have a mustache. They may not recognize me. But that gives you some idea as to my dedication. And over time, I was also a tour guide with them. So I've been a tour guide for about 5 years as well. And the other volunteer group that I enjoy working with is the Cleveland International Film Festival. So I've been with them about 8 years. And the chorus normally sponsors a film. So when they do, I get to go up and talk a little bit about the film and talk about our commitment to the film festival. So I think that covers it.
Yeah, those were the 2 major ones. That's great. Okay, so I think you are really a great example of somebody who is living life to the fullest. And what advice would you give to somebody who's just retired or now might be inspired or motivated and say, geez, I didn't realize everything that's happening at senior centers. I think, we talked about this in the beginning, but what advice would you give to somebody who now would maybe like to become more involved in and expand their horizons after retirement?
Okay, so I would recommend always getting out of the house every day and doing something. Volunteering for a cause you really believe in. I believe that it's important to engage with other people. And if you can't do it, if you're afraid because of the current environment to engage face to face, there's always Skype, Zoom, and other instruments you could communicate people with, or just by phone. If you've got friends that you haven't talked to in a while, call them up on the phone. They'd be love to hear from you. And the more social interaction you have, it's been proven scientifically, the greater feelings of goodwill can be experienced, and it adds to your whole wellness picture. And again, if you don't know what to do, go to your local senior center, check their schedules, and you can do everything from learning classes. The great course classes that they offer here are amazing, because I've been all over Washington, D.C. on tour. I've been to Savannah, Georgia. I visited all the Smithsonian museums, and I never had to leave comfort of my house.
Ooh.
Well, I did. I had to come here, but
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, there's just so much out there. There's no reason that anybody should ever feel lonely, and but you have to open yourself up. I mean, you've got to engage with people, and sometimes that means being the first person when you see somebody, communicating with them, because I'm usually a slow starter. If someone approaches me, then you can't stop me sometimes. But I try to be open to engagement with others, because we learn from others, and it always makes me feel good. So why not feel good? And I also recommend that
You got it?
when in doubt, go to your happy place. I keep this in my car, so I'm always in my happy place.
Very good. So I think my last question, you've already pretty much addressed that. I think when you start getting involved with these groups, you have a sense of belonging, you have a sense of purpose. You're not, like you said, just being lonely and isolated and all of that. So you are really a busy guy, and I think everybody has enjoyed hearing about your life. We're going to have a very brief he's going to show us his skills. We're going to have a little performance, but first we're going to have a few words from SLA Video Productions about how you can record a memory of your loved one, just like we're doing with Stephen right now. So we'll be right back after these words.
By the time I was old enough to hear a lot of these stories, I mean, he'd already passed on.
I miss hearing his voice and all the bad jokes he made. I wish that I could hear him talk one more time.
My dad loved sports, and he carried that love of sports and competition with him his whole life. I really miss hearing his voice and those phone calls after a close Browns game.
As promised, here is Stephen Pastor live. Take it away.
Okay, so I'm going to be showing a dance I performed in my last play at the Rocky River Senior Center. And because of the issues of licensing and music, I'm not going to be doing it to music. I'm basically going to tell you the steps I'm performing and just talk about choreographing a tap number in general. So everything's going to be done in blocks of 8. And if you've ever done line dancing, that's how they teach line dancing. So you can be following along, and if you want to count yourself, count to 8, and you can see that after every 8 or 16 counts, that the dance is going to change. So the most popular thing you're going to see is a ball change. So I start out with what's called a tick-tock, because it kind of looks like the hands, so it sounds like a grandfather clock. So the hop is what is known as a ball change, because you're changing the weight from the ball of your foot to the heel, okay? And you're going to see that in a Lindy. You're going to see that in, oh shoot, I had them all written down. In other places, I guess. Bumbershay. And in a gallop. So those are the main dances or the movements I'm going to be performing. So it's when we start with the tick-tock, gallop, scuff step, and then you pose and follow the lyric, and then you repeat, tick-tock, gallop, and you pose again. You go into the Lindy, mambo step, pose, Lindy, mambo step, pose. Then you do a safe, and then you start with a tick-tock again. Gallop. Then you go into a dance break, which is usually part of the dance where there's no lyrics to rely on, so you have to rely on the music. So I'm going to start with the promenade, heel toe. Then I'm going to do what's known as the Broadway. Then I'm going to do a cramp roll. This is called a bomberche. And then in a tap routine, because it's so aerobic, you need some time to catch your breath and transition to the next phase. So this is the kind of transition area. So I'm doing a step, doing a cross, a step, I'm doing a turn and reverse. Then I'm going to advance, crab roll. Then I'm going to go into a time step. Another recovery is going to be a box step. Then we're going to try T for 2. Promenade. Then we're going to repeat with the Lindy. Mambo. Communicate with the audience. Lindy. Mambo. Then we're going to, at this point, I'm going to break into a group, and I'm going to do a flap. Oh, here we go. I'm going to go with the gallop. And then I'm going to do a turn. I'm going to do flaps. And then, of course, you've got the big finish. Yeah. And that's it. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you for that wonderful performance. And one thing that I didn't ask you earlier, and I think this is a good time to ask it, is do you mind telling everyone how old you are? Because I think, again, that's going to inspire people.
Oh,
He's thinking about it.
Okay, yeah. Ran out of fingers. No, I will turn 72 in September.
So isn't that amazing that somebody is still that?
Spry?
Yeah, very good, yeah.
I'm just a spry guy.
Spry guy. Okay. So again, he's a perfect example that at any age, you can still be out there doing it. Cheryl has a question. Here we go.
So, do you feel that you had a natural talent before you got into all of this? Is it just the passion you had for it? What do you say to somebody that, maybe somebody sees you do those steps and they think, wow, that looks really fun, but I could never do that. What would you tell them to?
Okay, well, I guess you if you have the passion for it, you will develop the skill and you develop the comfort level that wants you to pursue that. So I started out slow. I mean, like I mentioned, I learned to tap dance at 62. And then once I retired, I was able to take tap dance lessons. And it's at 3 different levels. I mean, you've got beginner, intermediate, advanced. Just go to the beginner. Try it out. And if it works, then gradually continue, because you have to practice no matter what you do. And if you ever are in a production and you are in a dance number, the choreographer that I'm most familiar with from the chorus just says, practice 10 minutes a day. It's all you got to do. And if that, or run it 3 times. We can run it 3 times with no mistakes, you got it. So it doesn't take a lot of effort. It's just finding those 10 minutes in the day, because we're all so busy with family, work, whatever the case is, that it's sometimes hard to do. But if you're committed, make that part of your schedule and then work everything else around it.
And do you apply that to the theater and?
Oh yeah, right. Well, you need more than 10 minutes in the theater, obviously, but yeah, that's it. Just apply yourself. But because you're applying yourself for something you really enjoy, and that should be the motivator. And it's been shown that scientifically that dance, performing, because you have to remember lines, you're learning something new. By learning something new, you're not only able to retain it, but you're keeping the brain active, and that's what keeps us young and keeps us spirited.
Another question as far as, do you have a favorite film or play or performer that, if somebody were to ask you favorite movie, because I know you like Broadway things and
Okay.
show tunes and that sort of thing, but or do you have a favorite classical composer? Or is that your favorite music? Do you listen to rock or classic or?
So many choices.
Yeah.
So in terms of performers, movie performers, Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly, because of all the dancing they did, that's where I learned to want to do the tap. Then in terms of musical, because I took a music appreciation class in college, classical music became my go-to. And it's scientifically, that's also been shown to be a good mood enhancer. And I know it keeps my cat, when I'm not around, nice and calm. So it's got to help me. And then currently on Broadway, probably Lin-Manuel Miranda is probably one of the highlights, because he can do it all. He's a triple threat. He writes, he performs, he composes, does lyrics. So maybe I might approach that next as my next challenge. And my original musical, all about me. No, you know about me now, so there's no material left. So.
Okay, another question from Cheryl.
Well, this isn't so much a question as just a comment. And I don't have her information, so I can't give her any plug here. But there's a woman locally that does chair tap dancing classes. And I think that's an amazing thing for people that don't have the abilities maybe that Stephen has, but still have the passion to want to do that. You can still do it. Matter of fact, you can do just about anything in a chair that you can do standing up. It's just going to be a little different. So I think that's inspiring in many ways.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. That's a great outlet. I think that more people should be able to take advantage of that. But they have to learn about it first. So it's all about the marketing and getting the word out there. So I agree. It's up to her.
I would like to know, do you get nervous before performances?
I get nervous if I don't really know my choreography, or if I don't really know my part. I have to admit, every concert there's at least 2 songs that I call minefields, because there's something about the song that just doesn't connect with me. I have to figure out a narrative. I have to figure out some kind of mnemonics to kind of help me with the lyrics, because I can sing it in the car perfectly, and I get with my group, and I'm looking at the director, and we sing off book, which means we have no music in front of us, and then sometimes the light goes off, and you gotta wage your way through things. But I find that if I'm well prepared, then I don't have that nervous factor, because it's the fear factor that makes us anxious. And I know what level I have to be prepared for, and if I stick to that, then no, it's not really difficult performing. And you have to be an extrovert, and I'm sort of an extrovert. Well, in the article I mentioned I was also an exhibitionist, but in a good way. I just like to engage with people, and see what, yeah, and then just learn from them and just go head forward, and hopefully they'll learn something from me.
Joanne has a question. Okay.
Good
This is a
Lord.
really comprehensive.
This is not planned.
Yeah, no, but this is what's fun. It's very spontaneous. Here we go.
So for the Wine and Goldies, you said, it was music you didn't even know, and it was hip hop and everything. So how do you train for that? You said 10 minutes a day with your other performances, but that had to be hard.
Okay, so there's various ways of learning choreography. Some people have to learn it by counts. Now, if the music has lyrics, I can often associate a move with a lyric. And as long as I can connect those two concepts, then the words will basically tell me what to do if I know what step goes with that word. So over time, you develop a natural talent for that. Well, at least I should say I have. I can't speak for everyone. So I really locked in on that because that's something that's very valuable to me because I have to use it frequently. So that is my method. But we have people that I dance with in the course, they have to do it by the numbers. So that's how they get their connection. So it's going to depend on the individual and what makes them comfortable in order to perform at the level they need to be.
We got a little bit of everything today, which was fun because we got to see what you actually do in addition to hearing about it. So thank you again for coming. This was highly entertaining and informative. So
and thank you for asking.
It was
Happy
our pleasure
to do it.
to have you. So, and thank you again for the audience. Thank you.
Yes. Did you reduced my anxiety level tremendously. Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today, and thank you especially Stephen Pastor for sharing your life with us. And I'm going to mention something. Recently, somebody gave me this cute little piece of art. It's just a lovely picture, very soothing. And imposed over the image is this phrase, and I'm going to read it just to make sure I don't goof it up. It says, "Take time to do what makes your soul happy." And I think Stephen is really demonstrating that to us, that he's remaining engaged and active, but it's nourishing him and it's giving him fulfillment and satisfaction. So I really appreciate what you're doing and the inspiration you are for everyone else. So thank you. That's wonderful.
And I want to thank everyone for asking me to do this, and for my fans in the audience, because I know every person here. And I've been told this is the largest turnout they've had.
Yes.
So thank you for that. We made history.
Okay, with that, on behalf of SLA Video Productions, thank you everyone for coming. And once again, just as a reminder, if you're interested in having somebody in your family or a friend taped in this fashion, just go to slavideo.com. Okay, so I'm Addie. Thank you again. Have a great day.
And we want to hear from you. Contact us online or through social media with ideas and suggestions for future content. Also, you can help us enlighten and inspire others by sponsoring one of our video podcasts or any of our content.